So, I'm dealing with social anxiety, and it's this thing that's been influencing my life for quite a while now. And I've been good at hiding it, sometimes not. I've been good at avoiding certain situations, but I also learned a lot about social anxiety and about being awkward or feeling awkward. So, here are 11 things that I learned about social anxiety. So, number one is that we have to accept social anxiety as a part of us. It does not define who we are, but it is a part of us. So, wishing it away is like wishing a part of ourselves away. Of course, we don't want to feel anxious, but it is something that we have to deal with. And then also, by wishing it away, it becomes this negative thing or something that is wrong or something that we have to avoid. And the more we focus on wishing something away, the more attention it gets and the bigger it gets also. So the annoying thing is that by accepting your social anxiety or accepting that you feel awkward sometimes or accepting that you won't feel as comfortable in certain situations, the anxiety becomes less. It's kind of counterintuitive because of course we don't want to feel that way. We don't want to feel socially anxious, but that's kind of the core of social anxiety because we don't want it, we push it away, but we really focus on it. And what we focus on becomes bigger. And this is, I think, the reason why social anxiety or anxiety in general is so stubborn. We keep the vicious cycle going by adopting strategies to hide it or to avoid certain situations or overanalyzing ourselves after the situation. So we learned that by avoiding feeling socially awkward in these situations, by hiding our trembling hands or by nitpicking our behavior afterwards, and thinking of strategies to avoid certain behaviors in the future, we think that this is the way to, be accepted by others. So we learn that this is the way that we have to deal with these kind of situations. But this is a very short-term solution because we all, I think, can remember of situations that when we avoided the situation, it was a very, you felt a moment of relief, it felt very nice because you didn't have to go. Then the next time the same situation occurred that you really had to go to, the same anxiety was there again, or even worse, because you made this whole big thing of it in your head and you think of all these worst case scenarios. By avoiding the situation and by adopting all these strategies, we keep the cycle going. And then the only thing that will break this vicious cycle is by reversing it. So what we have to do is that we have to do the things that we find really scary. Psychologists have a word for this and they call this exposure. So exposure to the feared situation. And by exposure, so by doing the things that you find really scary, we learn again that we still survive if we go through this. So even if we feel really anxious or even when we feel really awkward, we still live, we still survive, we're still okay at the end of the day. The only way to become better at this is by accepting that we feel awkward or we not feel ourselves and to not beat ourselves up about it. And to also not have any expectations of ourselves in the situation. So I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned recently. And it sounds so very straightforward, but it's really like going back to who you are as a person and not who you think you should be. And I think we all have all these rules in our head, like how we should come across towards others, that we should be very bubbly or very funny or very quick in our responses or have smart replies, for example. I think those expectations are things that we expect of ourselves, and it's not per se that others expect that of us. So if we just take it back again to, okay, I'm just gonna be me in that situation and I don't have to be anything, I don't have to pretend to be something that I'm not or have to compensate for something or overdo something, and then we can also let go of all of those rules, all of those social rules that we've adopted, and we can just be. And the next one is that it's also important to be gentle to yourself. So if you feel really drained, for example, or really tired, and you have a party on a Friday night that you're really dreading, but you're kind of forcing yourself to go there, I don't think that's always the best idea. Of course, we have to force ourselves sometimes to get out of that comfort zone and to experience that exposure that I just talked about. But it's not a good idea to do that every single day when you're feeling like mentally drained or really tired or exhausted. Then it's good to also say, okay, tonight I'm really not feeling it and I need some time for myself. I need to recharge after a long week of work. And then tomorrow I might feel better, and then I might try a situation again that I find a bit scary. But be gentle to yourself. Also think of this. Most people are also really busy with themselves. So while we're thinking of how we come across to the other person is most likely to also think of how they come across towards you. Sometimes we have this kind of spotlight idea, so the feeling that there's this spotlight on us and that people are thinking about us or really overanalyze us. And most of the time it's not the case, because most people, like ourselves, are really busy about ourselves. So I think this is also a kind of an eye opener. Other people are not really that busy with you or that occupied with you as you might think. Most of them are busy with themselves. And I think educating yourself on social anxiety is also a really important thing. I find it really interesting to learn about what is happening in your body, about what causes social anxiety, and it also makes you learn the biological part of it and the function of social anxiety, and also how we can break that vicious cycle. So try to see yourself kind of as this experimenter who is learning about what social anxiety is, but also who is putting themselves in experiments. So I think it's quite interesting to kind of observe yourself also when you're doing the things that you find scary. So, for example, when I'm doing something that I find really scary, I try to really analyze myself, and not in a judgmental way, but more in a like, okay, this is interesting, what is happening right now, or what can I say to myself now to make the anxiety become a little bit less. And what it also does is that if we have situations on the agenda that we find really scary, and the first thing in our minds is that we want to avoid the situation, we can kind of turn it around. So I like to think of it now as not something that I find really scary. I can still think it's scary, but I see it more of a situation I can practice in now. So I think, okay, perfect. I have this situation that I usually don't really like. I still don't really like it, but it is a really nice situation for me to practice my anxiety in and to become better at it. So instead of really dreading the situation, I see it as an opportunity actually to to overcome my anxiety. And that's the thing that I want to do at the end of the day. I want to, overcome it, or I want to, deal with it. I want to live with it. I don't want to let it overtake my life, or I don't want anxiety to be this thing in my life that is making me miss opportunities, or is making me miss meeting other people that I might really enjoy talking to. So that is also for me the really big motivator, that I don't want anxiety to rule my life. I want to find a way to live with. And also I think this is a really important lesson that I learned, and that is that you don't need other people to tell you to just get over it. I think a lot of people do understand what anxiety is and what people go through, but also a lot of people don't. So they don't know how paralyzing it can be. They don't know how we're fighting against it every day. And I think that's for me also this thing that you become so good at hiding it for a lot of people that also a lot of people are really, they wouldn't know that you feel that way or that you struggle with it in the way that you do, because they look at you from the outside and they don't see internally what is going on. If we become so good at at hiding it, at being very socially bubbly, by overcompensating all the time, that they wouldn't know what we're going through. But we are going through it, and it's this really real thing. And the difficult thing about it is it's not visible, or mostly not visible, on the outside. So don't let other people ever tell you what you should feel or that what you're feeling is too much. Okay, so journaling, and I know here it is again, but I do think the journaling can help. So it's kind of nice to, after a certain situation that you felt really awkward, for example, or before a situation, you can write down what it is exactly that you're afraid of. And by writing it down and by writing down your thoughts, it can kind of be helpful to see it in a more objective way than when we're just in our heads the whole time. I also made this review about the anti-anxiety notebook, and I think this is a really nice way of also to see our errors sometimes in these situations. So it's a nice way to try to take a step back again and to analyze it in a more objective way. It's okay to ask for professional help. It's just so nice to really talk openly about the things that you're going through and the struggles you face every day, that you know that you talk to someone who is not judging you, who can help you, who can nudge you in the right direction, and also that push you to really start practicing with those situations that you find scary, and that chances are high that otherwise you wouldn't really do it by yourself, because taking that first step is really scary. But if there's someone to cheer you on, the chances are higher that you really start doing it. And then by doing it, and then by your first nice experience, or by doing the things that you find scary, you start feeling really proud, and you're really happy that you overcame that situation that you find scary, and it gives you courage to do it again and to become a bit more confident. And I really hope that you find the courage to take that step, because it's completely normal. It is completely normal to ask for help. Talk to people around you about the feelings that you have. So choose people that you trust, that you feel comfortable with. But I think sharing also your story with other people around you makes it a little bit lighter as well, because it's not something that you have to hide as much as before. And at the same time, I also experienced that when you tell people around you, that a lot of the times people tell you that they feel the same way. And of course, it might not be in the same amount as you do, but a lot of people recognize it, and a lot of people felt that same sensation one time in their life. Or I do notice that when I talk about it with people, a lot of people also deal with it, or have dealt with it in the past. So it really makes you feel that you're not alone in this. So I hope you found this helpful, and I hope I see you next time again. Bye.